Welcome to Egg Talks. Serial killers didn't outsmart the system. The system was just incompetent. 6 killers, 6 catastrophic failures. Let's crack them open. Failure number 1. The blunder of bias. Meet Robert Pickton, pig farmer and serial killer, who proved that some victims are worth less than others. Between 1983 and 2002, Pickton murdered at least 49 women from Vancouver's downtown east side. The women were primarily sex workers and drug users. Their families reported them missing. Friends reported them missing. For years, people screamed that women were disappearing. The system yawned. The prevailing attitude was these women were high-risk lifestyle individuals. Translation: they were going to disappear anyway, so why waste resources? In 1997, a woman escaped from Pickton's farm. She'd been stabbed, beaten, and handcuffed. Pickton was charged with attempted murder. The charges were stayed a year later. Why? The victim wasn't considered credible due to her drug use. Pickton continued killing for 5 more years. The systemic failure wasn't a glitch, it was a feature. The system triaged human lives based on social value. The biggest mistake was moral. Some people weren't worth the paperwork. Failure number 2. The blunder of overconfidence. Ted Bundy, the charming psychopath who convinced America that monsters don't look like monsters. June 1977. Bundy is on trial in Aspen. Because he was a former law student, they let him represent himself. This meant access to the courthouse law library. The shackles came off, the security protocol. One deputy would guard him. The deputy stepped away, just for a moment. Bundy jumped out of a second-story window and vanished into the mountains. The system forgot the most basic rule: redundancy. One tired guard, one moment of inattention, one unlocked window. Bundy was recaptured 6 days later. Then he escaped again 6 months later. During his time on the run, he murdered 3 more women, including a 12-year-old girl. The system's overconfidence ended lives. Failure number 3. The blunder of judgment. Jeffrey Dahmer. The night police handed a 14-year-old boy back to his murderer. May 27, 1991. A 14-year-old boy named Konarak Synthesomphone escapes from Dahmer's apartment. He's naked, bleeding, drugged, and terrified. 2 women find him and call 911. Officers arrive. They find the boy, the concerned citizens, and Jeffrey Dahmer. What should happen is obvious. Naked child, bleeding, incoherent. You investigate. That's not what happened. Dahmer calmly tells officers the boy is his 19-year-old lover. They'd had a fight, just a domestic dispute. The officers barely questioned him. They didn't check the boy's ID. They didn't run his name, which would have shown he was a missing person. They didn't call for medical help. They escorted Konarak back into Dahmer's apartment, where another victim's body was in the bedroom. Then they made jokes on the radio about reuniting the lovers. Dahmer murdered Konarak within hours. The officers violated multiple protocols. Their biases about sexuality and what real emergencies look like overrode every professional instinct. The system had the monster at the crime scene, standing next to his victim, and they handed that victim back. Both officers were fired, then reinstated by the police union. The system protects itself first. Failure number 4. The blunder of technology. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. At least 49 victims, possibly over 70. The police had him. They interviewed him multiple times. In 1984, he was a suspect. In 1987, he provided DNA samples. The police had their man in 1987. They didn't arrest him until 2001. 14 years. The answer? Technological incompetence. The investigation generated thousands of tips, hundreds of suspects, boxes of evidence. Multiple jurisdictions were involved. These departments weren't talking to each other. The data wasn't centralized. Different departments used different systems. Detectives were drowning in information with no way to cross-reference it. Ridgway's DNA was sitting in evidence, but early technology wasn't sensitive enough for a match. The bigger failure was organizational. The system generated massive data and had no infrastructure to analyze it. In 2001, a cold case team re-examined evidence with updated DNA technology and made the match. Not because new evidence emerged, because someone finally looked properly. The system could catch a killer in a small town in 1950, but give it modern crime volumes and bureaucracy, and it collapses. Ridgway operated for 2 decades because the system couldn't organize its files. Failure number 5. The blunder of rehabilitation. John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown. 33 murders. But Gacy was a convicted sex offender before his killing spree. In 1968, Gacy was convicted of sexually assaulting 2 teenage boys, sentenced to 10 years. He served 18 months. Why? Because Gacy was a model prisoner, polite, cooperative. He convinced the parole board he was a changed man. Paroled in 1970. Within a year, he was under investigation for another sexual assault. Charges were dropped, the system moved on. Gacy became a community pillar, successful business. He performed as Pogo the Clown at children's hospitals. He was photographed with First Lady Rosalind Carter. Under his house, 29 bodies were buried in the crawl space. The systemic failure is the parole system's inability to identify high-functioning psychopaths. Gacy was too good at integration. He understood what behaviors the system rewarded and performed them flawlessly. The system measures rehabilitation through observable compliance, rules, programs, remorse. But none of that measures what's inside someone's head. Gacy's parole officers saw proof that the system works. They didn't see the monster because he wore the perfect mask. The system believed compliance equals rehabilitation, that checking boxes equals transformation, that a man who tortured teenage boys could be fixed in 18 months. Failure number 6, the blunder of bureaucracy. The computer glitch. This is about multiple cases where convicted murderers walked free because someone checked the wrong box. 2005. The FBI admits a computer glitch led to accidental release of a suspected serial killer. 2013. A clerical error releases a convicted murderer 35 years early. 2020. A killer walks free due to a database synchronization issue. The pattern is always the same. Data entry error, a file that didn't transfer, a software update that wiped out a hold order, a clerk who clicked approve instead of deny. The irony, the system implemented technology to be efficient and foolproof. Computers were supposed to eliminate human error. Instead, computers created new ways for human error to be catastrophic. The systemic failure is over-reliance on automation without verification. The belief that digitized information is more reliable than a handwritten judge's order. The system prioritizes efficiency over safety. It's cheaper to have one person processing hundreds of releases than two people verifying each one. Monsters walk free not because they're geniuses. They walk free because the system is exhausted, underfunded, and forgot basic redundancy. A second human looking at the screen. Conclusion. 6 killers, 6 failures. Robert Pickton. The system decided his victims didn't matter. Ted Bundy. The system assumed it was too smart to be fooled. Jeffrey Dahmer. The system couldn't be bothered with paperwork. Gary Ridgway. The system drowned in its own data. John Wayne Gacy. The system believed what it wanted to believe. The computer glitch. The system trusted machines more than reality. We spend hundreds of billions on criminal justice, prisons, officers, databases, all built on one promise. We will keep you safe. Yet time and again, the system fails. Not at the hands of criminal masterminds, at the hands of tired clerks clicking wrong buttons, biased officers who decide some victims aren't worth investigating, disconnected databases, bureaucrats who care more about efficiency than lives. The real horror isn't the monster under the bed. It's that we pay people to keep that monster locked up, and they keep leaving the cage door open because they're underfunded, overworked, poorly trained. The system isn't broken. That would imply it used to work. The system operates exactly as designed. Minimum investment, maximum plausible deniability, zero accountability. When it fails, the system protects itself first. Officers get reinstated, clerks keep jobs, and the next monster slips through the same cracks. These aren't stories about evil winning. These are stories about negligence being normalized, about institutional failure being treated as inevitable, about people we trust being more interested in protecting budgets and careers. Which brings us to the uncomfortable question. If the system keeps making the same mistakes, keeps releasing monsters, ignoring victims, losing files, is it really a mistake? Or is this working exactly as intended? Which of these systemic blunders terrifies you most? Drop your answer in the comments. If you think the system needs complete rebuilding, hit that like button. Subscribe to Egg Talks for more stories about humanity's brightest ideas ending in disaster. And remember, next time someone tells you a serial killer is a mastermind who outsmarted everyone, ask them which department forgot to check the database. Thanks for watching. Don't trust the system.